Hey everyone, I'm Felicia Kashevaroff, an ICF certified relationship coach and founder of Tend Task. Here's something that might sting a little. You probably think your marriage is more progressive than your parents'. You split the mortgage, you both have careers, maybe you even alternate who picks up dinner. But if you're exhausted, resentful, and feeling like you're managing everything while your partner just exists in the space you've created, congratulations. You're living what sociologist Arlie Hochschild called the second shift. And it's not 1989 anymore. Today, we're talking about why modern marriages are running on ancient programming and why all your good intentions about equality aren't enough to override decades of gender socialization that started before you could even talk. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your relationship feels modern on the surface but exhausting underneath, and what you can actually do about it. Let's start with some research that's going to make a lot of you uncomfortable. Arlie Hochschild coined the term the second shift in 1989 to describe how working women come home to essentially a second full-time job of household management and childcare. But here's what she observed next, what she called the stalled revolution. Women entered the workforce en masse, but the second shift of domestic labor never got redistributed. The revolution toward gender equality just stopped halfway. Recent research shows that even in dual-career couples, women still perform approximately twice as much housework and childcare as men. During COVID-19, when both partners were working from home, women increased their daily housework from 2.5 hours to 3 hours. Men, they went from 1.26 to 1.57 hours. Even when men could tangibly see the work that needed to be done, the gap actually widened. Hochschild identified 3 types of gender ideologies that shape how couples approach domestic responsibilities. The traditional ideology says women handle the home, men handle the paycheck. Pretty straightforward. Egalitarian ideology says responsibilities should be shared equally regardless of gender. Transitional ideology, and this is where probably most of you live, says both partners can work, but women are still primarily responsible for the home and children. You might help each other out, but there's an understood default. The kicker? Research consistently shows that even partners who both identify as having egalitarian ideologies still end up in traditional patterns. This disconnect between expectations and outcomes creates deep resentment and disappointment for modern couples who can't understand why their equal relationship feels so unequal. And before anyone says, well, maybe women are just naturally better at this stuff, let me stop you right there. There's nothing in our DNA that makes women inherently better at remembering when the pediatrician appointment is or knowing that we're out of toilet paper. These are learned behaviors, and we've all been learning them since birth. There's plenty of research to support this learned behavior theory, but that's another video for another day. What's really happening in your modern marriage? You're operating under what researchers call intensive mothering ideology and hegemonic masculinity, which are academic terms for women should be perfect mothers and household managers, and men should be providers and fixers, not nurturers. This programming is so deep that it affects couples who swear they don't believe in gender roles. I see this consistently in my coaching practice. Partners who genuinely believe in equality, but somehow always default to more traditional behaviors. Let me give you an example that might sound familiar. You both work full-time, you both believe in sharing responsibilities. But when the baby gets sick, who automatically takes time off work? When you're having friends over for dinner, who's mentally planning the menu, grocery list, and cleanup strategy? When your kid needs a Halloween costume, who's already 3 Pinterest boards deep in DIY ideas? This is what researchers call the mental load, the cognitive labor of running a household. The really insidious part, because it's invisible, the person carrying it, usually women, feel crazy for being overwhelmed by something that their partner can't see. Recent longitudinal research shows that these patterns are so predictable that researchers can actually forecast which couples will fall into traditional arrangements based on their pre-marriage gender ideologies, even when both partners claim they want equality. Think about it. If you grew up watching mom manage the household while dad provided financially, that's your blueprint for how relationships work, regardless of what you intellectually believe about gender equality. Our brains are pattern matching machines, and the patterns we learned earliest are the strongest. The exhaustion comes in because modern marriages ask women to be full-time career professionals and perfect mothers and household CEOs, while asking men to be good providers and maybe help out when asked. One of these is a sustainable workload. The other is a recipe for burnout. What keeps couples from deciding to be equal partners and just making it happen? It's because changing behavior requires more than good intentions. It requires dismantling the systematic programming that has been in place for generations. First, we have default assumptions. In most relationships, childcare, household management, and emotional labor default to women. It's not that men can't do these things. It's that the systems assume women will. So men have to actively opt in while women have to actively opt out. And opting out feels selfish because we've been socialized to believe that this is women's work. Second, we have competency myths. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, she's just better at organizing, or he doesn't notice when things are dirty. These are not biological differences. They're learned helplessness and learned hypervigilance. When society tells women they're responsible for domestic perfection and tells men their contributions don't really matter, people live up or down to those expectations. Third, and this one might make you angry, men get praised for basic parenting and household contributions, while women get criticized for not doing enough. Dad changes a diaper at a restaurant? What a great father. Mom forgets to pack snacks? She's neglecting her children. This praise gap reinforces the idea that domestic work is women's domain and that men are just helping out. A 2020 study found that during the pandemic, when household inequality became visible to male partners, many men expressed shock at how much their wives were actually managing. As one NPR report put it, the pandemic made grotesque inequality visible to partners who previously had no idea. The hopeful reality? When couples consciously address these systems, instead of just hoping equality will happen naturally, they can actually create change. So what does the research say actually creates lasting equality in relationships? 3 things. First, make the invisible visible. This means actually documenting who does what, not just the obvious tasks like dishes and laundry, but the invisible labor like meal planning, social coordination, and child development tracking. Research consistently shows that couples who explicitly discuss and map household responsibilities report higher relationship satisfaction and more equitable divisions. Second, challenge default assumptions. Instead of one partner helping the other with household tasks, both partners need to be fully capable and responsible for all aspects of running your shared life. This means both of you should be well-versed in carrying all facets of any task, anticipating needs, doing research, making decisions, and following up to see what worked. No more learned helplessness or default managers. Third, design systems, not intentions. Research shows that couples who create explicit systems for sharing domestic responsibilities maintain more egalitarian arrangements over time than couples who just try to be more equal. This includes everything from weekly planning meetings to trading off who handles morning routines. There are lots of tools that make this easier. Our 10-to-task household organizer is one of them, designed specifically to help couples share the mental load. Couples who successfully create egalitarian relationships report that it actually strengthens their partnership. When both people feel truly supported, intimacy increases. When both people have agency in their relationship, resentment decreases. Here's what I would love for you to remember. Your exhaustion isn't a personal failing, and your relationship struggles aren't because you're not trying hard enough. You're fighting against decades of programming that taught you what normal relationships look like. The good news, once you see the system, you can change it. But it requires both partners to acknowledge that good intentions aren't enough. You need to actively redesign how your relationship works. If you're ready to build a truly equitable partnership, I invite you to learn more about our coaching programs at Tend to Task. We help couples move beyond good intentions to create relationships that actually work for everyone involved. What resonated most with you in today's video? Share it in the comments below. I'd love to continue this conversation. And if this felt like a wake-up call you needed, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more research-backed relationship reality checks. Thanks for watching. And remember, you have the power to create the truly equal partnership you both deserve.